I'd like you to know that you've just listened to hasn't done this before here at this center because she's here in the area, and we will work on that. That's a promise. Then I'd like you to all know that she wrote that song as well. So. I would like to take a moment to do, and Danny, and next week the title of the lesson is The Path of Courage. The next week is The Path of Evolution. The first Sunday in February, it's The Path of Love, which is called Cherishing. I don't remember the next two, but then in March I remember that it's The Path of Meditation, The Path of Prayer, The Path of the Heart. Isn't that a cute blending of Boston? The Path of the Heart. And it makes everything so gentle, you know. We're so not gentle in Boston that we have to make our language gentle so that we can become mellifluous. And then on Palm Sunday, it's called The Path of Non-Resistance. So that's where we're moving to. And to begin, of course, I want to talk about God. It's funny, when I look back over my Sunday lessons, in January, I almost always talk about God on this Sunday. It's as if I want to get it over with so we can get on with life or something. Take that lightly, all right? Take that very lightly. And I'd like to build like a stepping stone into this material this morning. I've been up to Washington since I saw you last week. I spoke in Washington at the Unity Church in Seattle, and I want you to know that one of the hardest things I do is probably speak out of town. I'm a prophet in my own country. And when I look out at you all on Sunday mornings, generally you all look like, well, ho-hum. I'll tell you what the face looks like. It's kind of flat, and nothing happens. And it was really wonderful in Seattle last week. They were leaning forward on their seats. I mean, they were truly excited to have me in town. And I thought, God, isn't this wonderful? And then, of course, I have to remind myself that you all probably think that, but you've become so used to it that you just... And so what you do is you draw this charge out of me like, chip, 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 let's wake these for, let's get a response. So, to begin with it, I thought I might say to you this morning, do you realize? You think I'm going to say how lucky you are to have me here. That is not what I'm going to say. What I want to say is, do you realize how lucky you are to have the opportunity to spend one precious hour once a week to honor and to remember that God is alive? I heard somebody go, phew. That's a response. You know, it's like I want to go shake you up and say, have you remembered recently that God's working here? Have you paid any attention? Have you felt anything go stir? Do you know what stir feels like? It's like a sound begins to vibrate inside and you say, okay, God, I hear you cooking. That is such a wonderful opportunity to be able to honor the fact that God's really around and doing what God's supposed to do, which is live you, which is to cause you to become, which is to expand you, which is to brighten you, which is to give you tons of opportunities to remember again and again and again God's around. I don't want to get too excited about this because some people might think I'm neurotic and a little too intense. But I could say this blandly. Just say, you know, God's doing God's number. Pay attention. Wake up. Did you know I believe it? Huh? Did you know I believe it? Do you know that's what my life's about? Do you know that's what your life's about? Do you know that's what your life is about? When the mate comes home and says, ain't staying around anymore, honey. When the job goes awry, when the money isn't coming in, When you're going through the midlife crisis, when you feel like everything's shattering, like the shell's really shattering this time and you can't hold it together, is there a response inside that says, boy, God's really working now? I want that response. I want people around me who, when they come in and say, God, it all fell apart, that say, good. It's cooking. And then I want to prove it to you. It's cooking. God's awfully precious. God's awfully precious. God's awfully precious. You are so lucky to have the opportunity to spend 1 hour a week remembering, so that it might infiltrate every part of your existence, so you might feel it living in your blood. Do you know that in Judaism, once a year, the people were given the opportunity to hear the word, listen, God. God. Once a year. You know why they did that to them? So they might cherish it. How would you be if you had to wait 1 whole year just to hear it? And nobody else could say it. You couldn't say it, but only the rabbi. Might you appreciate it a little bit more? Can I wake you up? Say it, say it, say it, say it inside. Will you just for a minute say it inside? Say, God. And don't let my power overwhelm you or make you get all shy inside. Just meet me. Meet me out here. If it causes a few tears, for God's sakes, dare to leak. And then put your whole life in the cusp of this, in the shell of this. And say it again. Come on. Inside. God. Do you know what Sunday morning services are supposed to be about? They're supposed to be about people having the rich, special opportunity to join together, to be able to feel again something pulsate that says they heard the word. You know, Sunday morning services aren't about watching Ruth Knox do her thing again. They are not about personality. This is not an entertainment festival. This is an honor. Do you understand me? Thank you. You do. I'm shaking all over. And I'm not nervous. I'm causing myself to bounce off you and to invite you to respond with me. And let's not forget, as we begin January 1986, that the business of this church is not to be social, is not to make money. It is for us to come together, to meet, to somehow cause a vibration that will pulse inside of us and cause us to go out through those doors and scream, whether it be through our eyes, it usually won't be through your mouth, but through the livid light that penetrates out of you, that you are turned on. And that you understand that your life isn't about relationship. It may be very important. It isn't about money. It may be very important. It isn't about dying. It isn't about losing. That may be very important. But what life is about, let me give you an analogy. You know the big bass that's played in a symphony orchestra or a jazz group? You know the big one that they hold up high and they draw a bow across and they go, and all the rest of the orchestra goes, and people goes, most Most of us call all that life. But you know what life is? It's this resonance. Do you know what I mean? All right, with all of that, let's put that aside. And now I'd like to explain to you, since my mission this morning is the path of God, I'd like to tell you what God is. And I will do that in 5 minutes or less. Now, the reason that I can do that in 5 minutes or less is because I got very smart a few years ago, because I recognized you can't explain what God is. Because there's nothing that God ain't. So why describe? Most of us busy about saying God is love, God is life, God is light. Then we all look at our dark lives and we say, well, God isn't there. And we look at all the nasty kids in our lives and the nasty problems and say, well, God isn't there. Got to go find God. Let's blow the myth. You ready? God ain't here or there. You ready? God is. And I'll lay my whole life on a line for that. God's the very life that's moving in the veins, inside the emptiness, in the marrow, between the bones. Do you feel that? Huh? Do you feel that? You can respond. You can also leave. Incidentally, I would like to make a general statement this morning that I am not here to be agreed with or disagreed with. You know why? Because I'm right. Now, I'm going to take that one step further, because this is what I really believe. I believe I'm right for me. And you don't disagree with me. You may use me as a way to discover your own truth. And through that, you may throw me out. And I'd love you to, because then I'll know you found you in relationship to God. So all you have to do is agree or disagree with you. But don't argue with me. It's a silly waste of time, because I'll just throw you back on you. To come back to God in a simple description, God is the seeing that sees through you right now. God is what sees. God is the skin that's growing over the bones of your body. God is the thread in these pants. God is the leaf on those plants. God is that hair that's growing out through your eyebrows, pushing itself, always pushing itself out through you, relentlessly. God is the confusion driving you crazy. God is the question, the answer. God is the love, the hate. God is the newborn child and the aging too quickly parent. God is two people coming together, giving birth to a new one. And God is the energy and the seed that is placed in the womb. And God is the last breath that goes out with death. God's the whole thing. Don't you dare try to take God out of any part of God's universe, or I'll punch you in the nose. I'm serious about this. And then one other part to just give this some more vitality and vigor. Sound like John Kennedy, didn't it? Disgusting. Vigor. Vigor. There's a tendency in a lot of us to say, well, I'm not sure God created this. I don't know how you could be so presumptuous to presume that there was anything God couldn't create. That's ego. Ego is not shining in your own light. Ego is presuming that you're the boss. I was reading about Halley's Comet. I just got the name right recently. Halley's Comet, not Halley's, but Halley's Comet. I've been down in Arizona for a few days, and I picked up a book because as I was driving out of Sedona through Oak Creek Canyon, I looked up in the sky and saw a constellation that I believed had Halley's in it. And so I stopped, pulled over, and took out the binoculars to look, and I'm as excited as anybody. Only thing I'm sorry about is I didn't get born sooner so I could see it twice. See, isn't that stupid? And Halley's is a fascinating story. And you know how Halley's happened to get born was that about 15 billion years ago, the Earth went, I mean, it came into form, you know, something happened. We don't know what it was. Some of us are convinced it's God, but it really doesn't matter because it is what it is. And when it went into form, this little ball of something called Halley's Comet didn't know where it was going. Kind of like you and me. So it got shot very fast in this wind tunnel away from the sun, spinning way out there, kind of looked at itself and probably said, God, I wish I could get in charge of this thing. I could only have a little control, do a few affirmations here and a few denials there. Here a visual image, there a visual image. Well, when it got to the end of wherever it was going, which is the way it is with you and me, all of a sudden something went halt, and it stayed lingering there, whether to go out or in. And at some point in time, something said, come in. So ever since then, it's been spiraling through the universe in 72-year patterns back toward the sun. You know why I shared that with you? Just because I really want to share with people that the design is not yours. It's not yours. You know, the only hope then is to put your hand in the glove. How does that feel? Put your hand in the glove and let it handle your life. Because it's no good or bad anyway. It's just life becoming, and its design is marvelous. Through thick and thin, pain and joy, love and hate, destroy and create. Its design is marvelous. God, folks, it's marvelous, Marilyn. It's marvelous, isn't it, Alice? The whole thing. The whole thing. The whole thing. I want the whole thing. All right, that's about 8 minutes of what God is. That's all you get. Wasn't that easy? So you don't even have to remember anything. Somebody comes up and he says, what's God? You say, everything. And then let them work on it. So that brings me to the closing, and I just have 4 more little tidbits for you. And that is that I said the lesson was about the path of God, not just God, but the path of God. And I think that there are probably 4 basics about relating to God that might assist us all and give us some structure as a way to work with this marvelous force to which we give our life. I'd like to make it perfectly clear right now that I don't presume that my path is any better than any other's. I'm just offering a path. I don't really believe that the path, let me say it another way, I'd like to offer to you that everybody's on a path. Gaddafi's on a path. And don't get yourselves all psyched up that he's on a bad path. He's just on a path. Give it to him. Trust this universal magnificence that is working in everybody's path to unfold its mystery of becomingness. Because you see, God ain't done yet. God's using everything. Everything. How could God use anything else? Please understand. Please accept. Please watch your inner words when something goes wrong in your life. Or when you see somebody who isn't acting the way you want them to act, and so you say, oh, well, they're not on the path. Oh, that's disgusting, folks. I mean, you've got to be further ahead than that to be hanging around me. If you dare to say they're not on the path, then you just got off it. That's cruel. But if you dare to say that they're not on the path, then you're playing the typical religious game of spiritual one-upmanship. Since I can't feel any better about myself any other way, then I will declare myself on the path, and all others who aren't following the same one I do, which is to eat right, and to think straight, and to act kind, and for God's sakes be loving. Oh, God, outrageous. All paths are paths of God. God uses the whole thing, the whole webbing, the whole tapestry, every thread. So with that, I'll get this finished. It would appear as if we here at Unity agree about some simplistic principles about honoring the path of God. And I'd like to offer them to you. The first one is that it would appear as if God's path involves expansion. Hear the word, take it in. You've probably been wondering why I've been holding this balloon all morning. It is one of my birthday presents that I received in December from a very dear friend. And as I was working with this, I realized I really wanted to share the balloon theory with you. And this is serious, and I'm not going to kid with you. God is a God that continually expands. You, be careful of this, you may be still thinking that God is a completion, that in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, and it was all done, and now all you have to do is spend your whole life trying to get back to God's completed perfection, because you're a fallen angel. Well, why don't you just destroy that myth this morning and grow with me into another one? Because you'll only have to destroy this one in time too. But let's play with a new one. See what it does to your life. Experiment. See what it does with your life. This is from Itzhak Bentoff's book, Stalking the Wild Pendulum, where he describes God as the evolutionary theory, the Big Bang theory, which says that in the beginning, the universe begins to expand as an expression of God, and its process is continual expansion. And the way that happens is that God is continually blowing his breath, her breath, into your consciousness and into the whole world consciousness continually for it to begin, or for it to continue to evolve into deeper and deeper and more expanded realms of consciousness. Doesn't mean that anything that's back in the earlier days is less. It only means it's expanded through. Watch this. I stopped smoking 2 months ago so I could do this for you. On this. Don't count on it. I've quit many times. All right, now take a look at your life for a minute. Let's say your life's uncomfortable. Let's say somebody just came home and said, I'm leaving. Let's say you've lost your job. Let's say you just fell in love. Let's say you've just had the best Christmas ever. Let's say you just had the best year financially ever. And then you begin to feel something move. Well, what's happening is God's always doing this. And this external side is the extension of God within you now and in the universe now, symbolically. So when you start feeling life lean on you, you know what's happening? There's nothing wrong. It's just expanding. The demand is, let it do what it will. Don't try to make this go backwards. It can't. It refuses. The greatest pain will become if you try to go back to who you were. You must let it. Look at your life. Look at the whole part of your life and say in one breath, God's doing its expanding work now. I agree to participate. Say it inside, even if you don't dare say it outside. God's breathing on me. God's breathing into me. And does that mean you're getting bigger and better? I don't know. I know you're expanding. I know God's doing God's work. Put your hand in the glove. Put your hand in the glove. It's velvet. Put your hand in the glove. It's velvet. Please. Understand? Understand? You don't have to agree with me. Understand? I'm going to try to let the air out of this balloon gently. As you get older, you tend to get more graceful. Principle number one, God is always expanding. Principle number two, the path of God requires vulnerability. Watch. You must become like this. If you see tears leaking into me, it's because I can't do that, but that I feel what I know is required. And if you think that's this, no. This. Where do we all get the myth that we're supposed to know where it's going? Where do we all ask that it has to be explained in English? When will you get the courage to say, I don't know? Please? Very wise people say, I don't know. I don't have to have the thing shown. I'm willing to be stupid. So many miracles, so many awesome, so many beautiful, so many wondrous things are denied because we're all looking for the end. We're all looking for the information. And because of that, we've got our eyes peeled in on this, and we miss all of that. And then we say there are no miracles. Well, you missed them all. Life's a miracle. By Jove, it's a miracle. Being here is a miracle. Isn't it wonderful? I'm alive. Why must be there terms on life? Why do I have to be happy to be alive? What kind of last term is that? How about just, I'm alive? And even when you die, how about being alive with death? Principle number 2, vulnerability. Number 3, the path of God requires art. Art. A-H-T. I heard it said yesterday, and then I won't say any more. Then we're nearly done. Eric Dickinson, Dickerson? Dickerson. Yesterday ran 247.
43.
Thank you. 40. No, he got 4 more. Yes, I'm pretty sure. And I don't want to fight with you. They put him back in the last minute just so that he could break a record. I think I just argued with you. Forgive me. But I was listening to it because I was coming through the Los Angeles area at the time. God-awful place. Are you from Los Angeles?
No, but I thought the same thing.
Forgive me, forgive me, forgive me. And obviously the announcers were biased, but they were talking about Eric on the sidelines, and they said that this man plays football as an artistic runner, and the way he does it is he goes over the sidelines, and in between every run he checks the taping on his ankles to be sure that it's just right for him to make the next run. Now, some might call that finicky, but you know what that is? That's sensitivity. And it's sensitivity to the whole thing that's around you, and that's a kind of art. Having been a concert pianist, and I don't always like to throw that out at you, but oh God, art is such a refined skill, and working with God is being sensitive. Oh, it's sensitive to your body, it's sensitive to your heart, it's sensitive to your mind, it's sensitive to the people who are around you. It's molding that whole thing so that you live the artistic dance in relationship to God. I don't know how to tell you to do it. I know it requires that. That brings me to the last one, which is the path of God is a path of listening. Hear me say the word listening. I was in the desert 2 days ago. And I usually don't care for the desert, but by Jove, I had a new communion with it. And what happens in the desert is that everything gets all quiet. Have you noticed? You know, no city lights, no cars, no people, very few people. And there's a smell that goes with it. If you get out there and you get really quiet, you begin to hear. I hope you understand that. Hear at a different level. You understand that usual thought goes like this, right? And what you're doing when you're out there listening like that is you're listening for, do you remember at the start of this lesson? The string bass. And how does the string bass sound? Well, it doesn't talk in words. It is a sense. Hear the word, it is a sense. It is like something inside of you goes, yes. And you know how you get to yes, which is not a yes versus no, but just a resounding sound that confirms. Do you know what I mean? That just vibrates and there's a response and you feel as if the whole thing's moving harmoniously. And it isn't because the rattlesnakes went away. It isn't because there aren't any cactuses. It's just because you found something beneath all of that. You did it because you took the time to listen. Yeah. And have you ever noticed that when you find special places on the earth where you can listen better, we tend to make hallmarks out of them? I can tell you every place where I've heard my sound. And I'll tell you my greatest weakness has been to think that I had to go anywhere to hear it. Because where my sound is, it's inside me. And my requirements are that I listen. And what's the call? The call is listen deeper. And then when you ask the question again, what's it say to you? It says, if you can't hear now, listen deeper. And then when it gets all confused again, you think you've gone as far as you can, and you ask, why is there nothing coming through? The Word will say, and deeper. Am I deep enough now, God? No, deeper. What's the call of life? Depth. What's the creativity of life? Where is it? Deep. Will it ever end? No. Would you ever want it to? God, you'll get awfully mad if it does. Listen. You're in crisis. Why don't you go find some place where you can be quiet? Have you got a room in your house? Do you dare tell your family, shut off the phone, shut your mouth? If you need help, call me. I'll tell them. I'll tell them I gave you an assignment even. We'll lie to them, but let's get you to your sound. God is, there is nothing else. And God's path, as I see it clearly, and it will change, is a path of vulnerability, a path of expansion, a path of art, and a path of listening. And this closing song this morning will share with you the great work that goes on underground. The great work that goes on underground. Don't dim the lights.
Some say love, it is a river that drowns the tender reed. Some say love, it is a razor that leaves your soul to bleed.
Just remember that your response, your applause, your tears, your vibrations are merely affirming, not the words that were spoken or the music sung, but rather that you know in you that what you've heard is the truth for you. Let's go into our hearts now and let come forward within us the gift of love we would share.